Joe, thanks so much for being on the show.
Of course, always.
So
Whenever you
I
need
gotta
me to
be,
come on, I'm there.
I love it. I love it. Well, virtually is a lot easier for sure.
Yes.
So I gotta be honest, before I like really dug into you, I think I heard about you maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And obviously like particularly resonated with me because of your, Philippine background. And I actually thought Jo Koy was your real name,
Yeah.
but it's not. It's Joseph Herbert, right?
Glenn, don't forget my middle name.
Joseph Glenn Herbert. Yeah.
There you go.
This is the funny thing. Is like the Philippines have the craziest and the funniest names that I've ever heard in my entire life. No kidding. I actually have a friend of mine, not really a friend, more like a elementary person that I knew, and her name was God is with us. I don't even know if that's her. I don't even know which one is the last name or not, I think, but it's legit God is with us.
Oh yeah, that's real. I've seen names like that. You gotta love it. How creative these moms are. I don't really think the dads have anything to do with these names, honestly.
Is
I
it more
always
of a
hear it
mom
come from
role
them.
there?
I always think it's from the mom. They always come up with the funny names, and my auntie Evelyn always had really cool nicknames for everybody in the family. I
Yeah.
I went up as Joseph Glenn Herbert. You know what I mean? First year and a half, I was going up as Joseph Glenn Herbert. But every time I said, the MC would say my name, there was always this laughter that would ensue because Herbert is just so fucking funny, I guess. You know what I mean? So I had to spend the first 2 minutes on stage, cracking jokes with the crowd or, talking about my name. And I never got to get to any jokes. It was always just this thing. Or the MC would always say it wrong, A Bear. They would always go A Bear or Hebert. Or it was just a constant, how do I get out of this? I just want to get up and do my jokes. And I swear, I wasn't even going to go up as Jo Koy. I was literally trying to figure out another way to say my name or use my middle name as my last name. And then my aunt was just there when we were thinking of this. And she was like, Jo Koy, eat. And literally it was like this gift from God. Me and my cousin look at each other like, Jo Koy, just go up as Jo Koy. So, that's how it happened, honestly. Because when my aunt says it, it doesn't sound like a name you would say to your friends,
Yeah.
It's like a very family name. It's like something that you would say within the family. You know what I mean? It's like Jo Koy. She says it like that, Jo Koy. You know what I mean?
What does the Koy mean though?
Okay, so now I just found this out, and I talked about it in my last special because, people started asking me what Koy meant because I started blowing up, right? And then they were like, hey, so what does Koy mean? And I didn't really have a definition. All I had was my aunt, my aunt calls me Jo Koy. I don't know why. She calls everyone a different name. My auntie Lynn was Lengoy. My auntie Belle was Tita Bang. Like she just has all these funny names for everybody in the family. And then I asked my aunt, I go, what does Koy mean? I don't even know what Jo Koy means. Where'd you get it? And she goes, it's not Koy, it's Ko. I call you Jo Ko, not Jo Koy. And I'm like, what? I always thought it was Koy. And she goes, no, it's Jo Ko. So in Tagalog, Ko means my, right? So my nickname is my Joe. So she calls me Jo Ko. I had no idea. And when she says it fast, it sounds like Jo Koy. You know what I mean? She always says
So your
Jo Koy.
entire stage, the name that you built your entire career on was off of an accident.
All off. It was all wrong. My merch is wrong. All my specials are spelt wrong. Everything is just wrong.
Man.
Because she I swear when she says it, she says Jo Koy, but she always says that it's Jo Koy. Jo Koy, Jo Koy. I'm like, all right.
That's
But that's what it means. It's kind of a cool nickname now that I know, but it took me 30 years to find out what she meant. I had no idea that it meant my Joe. So it's kind of cool.
That's hilarious. And do you speak Tagalog?
Tagalog. And
Tagalog.
I do. I speak it.
Wrong.
No, it's all good. I speak it, when I used to live there, I lived there for almost 6 years. So I was really, really good,
Damn.
and now I could speak. Oh yeah. Like if you get me in a room, like people think I'm fluent. It's just like, no, I'm just getting by, but I understand everything you're saying. There's no secrets being kept. I understand everything you say. And I can get through, speaking as well. So.
Oh, I didn't know you spent time in the Philippines as well.
Oh
so you
yeah.
really,
Man.
this is during your career or this is like during your
We were
university
there.
time?
it was the most memorable time of my life, man. Like I always brag about my time in the Philippines. It was between the age of 5 to 11. So it was very, it was my happiest time in my life. You know, the family was happy. Everyone was happy. It wasn't until we moved back to the States, and I'm talking immediately back in the States, it just turned into turmoil. It was bad. And when I say immediately, like the minute we landed in SeaTac and went to Nellis Air Force Base, which is one of the Air Force bases that that are there. All three bases are in Tacoma, and we were like outside of Nellis Air Force Base, staying in like a late, I don't know what they're called, extended stay housing for the military to try and help us find a house. So we were staying in this extended stay. Immediately, like that week, it was the cops were called, and my brother got arrested for fighting my dad. And it was like, what is going on? Like, it was just complete chaos the minute we landed. So yeah, that sucked.
Well, dude, I mean, is Pinoy like a politically correct term? Can I say Pinoy?
I mean, you can, it's slang, you know what I mean? It's slang between Filipinos. They call each other Pinoys or Pinay, you know what I mean? Pinay are Filipino women, and Pinoy are the guys, you know what I mean? But yeah.
But it's amongst Filipinos. It's not like...
I mean, people go, oh, I got a Pinoy friend or whatever. But yeah, that's usually something a Filipino says to another Filipino, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, the Philippine people generally, they're just like the happiest people, right? So it totally makes sense that you coming in from the Philippines to the US, like it's just a completely different culture, different vibe.
It was crazy. I talk about it in my book, man, but I didn't know I had that much PTSD until I started reading the book out loud when I did the audio version. I was just like, God damn, dude, I went through some shit. It took me 2 weeks to record that in the booth, but I mean, that was the best therapy session of my life. Like I've never had therapy like that before. And it was all self-therapy. It was me literally just reading my book about my life to two strangers who I don't even know, and just crying every chapter, just like, fuck, I need a second, man. I need a second. So it was healing. I don't wish that on anybody. If you ever have to read about your life out loud, get ready for a lot. It's
what was part of the book?
But you forget that your muscle is you're the biggest muscle in your body has got to be the brain, and it needs healing, it needs stretching, and doing it is very emotional, and that's what happened. I didn't mean to bring the pod down, but we went there.
No, let's go into it. I mean, what was the part of the book that was the most difficult? It was my
first time actually opening. Normally I would have never started a pod with my brother and my dad fighting. You know what I mean? Like, I would never even tell people I had a brother. You know what I mean? Like, I just wouldn't. If anyone asked me, do you have siblings? I always said I have two sisters. I would never, ever, ever say I had a brother. And the only reason why is because it's not that I don't like my brother. I love my brother. It's just, it opens up it opens up a part of my life that I'm not willing to share. You know what I mean? And immediately, when someone goes, oh, you have a brother? Where does he live? And then I got to tell you where he lives. And what does he do? And now I have to tell the truth. You know what I mean? Now I have to really get into this, this deep story about my brother. And so I'd rather just ignore it. And that's our generation. That's a generation thing, right? Especially when you have a Filipino mom and it's very prideful. You know what I mean? You don't talk about your brother. That's in the family, and you don't let anyone know about our secrets. And that's a generation thing. And it's like, unfortunately it caused a lot of PTSD on me. I hate using that all the time, but it's true. And now we live in a time where it's like, no, you don't have to be embarrassed about someone having mental illness in your family. Now it's okay to talk about it. And it's great to talk about it because nothing better to hear someone else share the same story. Nothing better to hear somebody go like, hey, I got a sister that's dealing with that, or I have a mom that has that too, man. I feel you. And now we can relate and share stories and understand that you're not alone, and that came from the book. And that man, that was hard. That was really, really hard to finally tell the world, my brother's story and how traumatic it was at my house because, he's dealing with, schizophrenia and how he would lash out on the family and how he would always fight it, just police every other week, just cops, hospital, cops, jail, just nonstop. And when you're a kid seeing this growing up, it's just like you curl up and you're just trying to find a happy place. And that was stand-up. That was comedy for me.
Mm-hmm. So you guys weren't really ever close per se.
No, my brother, you don't understand. My brother he's so funny. Like I always say, he's the funniest one. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's very, he loves the office jokes. You know what I mean? The guy by the water cooler that's got that stupid joke that he just heard, you know what I mean? Or he read a meme and he can't wait to tell people that's my brother, and no one laughs harder than my brother. You know what I mean? And like, we have that relationship. We're so close, but it's just, unfortunately, his situation has pulled the family, apart. I think a lot of us are dealing with like just personal issues because of what we had to go through during that time, and it sucks. It sucks. And it's cool because now I know I'm not alone, man. When I came out, when that book came out, just the response of people just saying, sharing their stories and just being open about it, or some people going, oh my God, I never wanted to talk about my mom, but this chapter right here, makes me want to tell people my story too. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool, Yeah. So it's really, it's been a blessing, that book. It really is.
Well, dude, yeah, it's courageous for you to start even sharing that. I know it, like in Korea, at least, like my background's South Korean, right? And it's forbidden to talk about going to like therapy or seeing a psychologist. I mean, I know my brother had some issues as well. And then my aunt actually, she committed suicide from depression. So it's like a big thing that happens.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
People are now just getting comfortable talking about it. What was like,
it's crazy, right? That we're in 2021 and now it's like, I've never seen so many people bring up the issue mental illness or mental awareness. And I was just like, where was this when I was a kid, man? If I was a kid and I got to see that on TV, I would have been like talking to everybody, dude, but I know it sucks. But I mean, you know what? It's okay. It's as long as it's out there now and my son got to meet my brother. My son loves my brother. And, it's really, it's a different time now. And I love where we're going. This generation's going the right way, because those old habits, man. And I understand, man, it's hard for me to explain to my son where my mom came from or where your dad came from or your mom came from. They don't understand what that type of oppression is or what type of racism that they dealt with. You know what I mean? They get to see a semi-opened door for them. It's not fully open, but it's almost there. You know what I mean? But you'll never know how it feels to have that door completely closed on you. I'm still dealing with like inner racism, just here in general, just me speaking, about my mom, doing stuff about my mom, telling her story, giving my mom a character, a prideful character that she could be proud of and other Filipinos can embrace. That was always my goal. I'm not going to make fun of Filipinos. I want to show people that my mom's a strong American that's Filipino, that lives in this country and she pays taxes, and you get her and you know her and you've seen her. So don't act like you don't. When people sit there and go, yeah, he's doing that accent. Oh yeah, of course. Cause I'm doing an impersonation of my mom and I'm doing a great impersonation. And if I don't do it, then who else is going to do it?
Well, dude, you're also a comedian. Like you're trying to tell a message in an entertaining format. But
what kind of systemic racism is that for you to actually say that to anybody of any ethnicity, not in just Asian? Because you don't say it to Larry the Cable Guy when he talks about his mom. That's an accent. There's no difference between Ron White doing an accent about his mom. Hey, Ron, come inside and eat breakfast now. What's the difference from that and my mom going, Joseph, come inside and eat breakfast now? What is the difference, bro? Other than the color of their skin. They're both accents, but you understand them clearly. So I don't get it. It's just systemic racism. It's just like this, it's this thing to be able to say it and get away with it. And it's not cool. Like, I don't understand why that's a thing. That's even a topic. I just don't get it. It's like, yo, man, how are you going to sit there and act like my mom isn't just like your mom? You know what I mean? Yeah. How are you going to do that? It's belittling. Yeah. It's it's offensive, but people are careless with the way they approach their conversations with people. They're careless. You know what I mean? Because, we've been normalized for so long. It's not normal anymore. You're not allowed to do that anymore. You're not allowed. It's not okay for you to be ignorant anymore. Back in the day, you could be ignorant and be like, yo, I just don't know. It's like, no, you're just choosing to be ignorant right now. You do know. There's Google now. You can Google anything. Within a second, you'll find out. Within a second, bro. I can understand the 70s. Let me get an encyclopedia. Let me talk to a professor. But no, right now you got Google. It may not give you the right answer, the complete right answer, but it'll give you an understanding. So you don't have to sit there and act like, I just don't know. No, you're choosing not to know.
Yeah. Well, this is what's so exciting about having someone like yourself and, this kind of Asian movement that's happening where you're able to tell your own story, right? You're able to be on the platforms. 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we just didn't have that. And it's so refreshing for me to see this and for you to be telling your story and for people to be resonating and to really be learning about these different cultures that exist. I mean, what was like the reaction when you started to tell these stories about your brother and your family? Just even
my
your
brother
family,
was tough because it was, I always wanted to talk about my brother. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. My bad.
No.
I always wanted to talk about my brother on stage, but like my whole point is to try and make a really, not a good situation funny. You know what I mean? Because I still want to tell my story. Like when I tell the story about my sisters being kicked out of the house at 18 and I'm by myself with my mom crying, like, when I deliver the joke on stage, it's funny, but it wasn't funny when it happened. You know what I mean? That's not a funny situation. It's a real situation. You know what I mean? But when you listen to it, you laugh and you're like, I get it. That's funny. But then you're also like, yo, my sister left at 18. And then now my son's 18. And I'm like, fuck, this kid can't leave at 18. Yeah. He's just a kid. How did my sister do it? Like, how did she do that? I'm looking at my son right now going, my sister left the house at this age. Like, what? Yeah. What the fuck? That's incredible. You know what I mean? So for me to be able to talk about that and still make it funny, like that situation funny, that's the art of comedy, I guess. But man, it's hard for me to do that with my brother. Like, how do I talk about something that's so personal and it's not a funny situation, you know what I mean? But it is my life and my brother is a cool person. And if I can find the right angle and the right, way of presenting my brother the right way, you know what I mean? With still trying to show some type of awareness about it, I'd like to do it. But I don't want to do a disservice, you know what I mean? I don't want to just do it just to do it, you know what I mean? So it's going to take me a while. And I've been trying so long to try and talk about my brother. It's just hard. It's really hard. It really is. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll try. I got another special coming up, I've been working on some stuff with my brother. Yeah, we'll see,
What was his reaction when he read the book? And
to be honest, he hasn't even told me that he read it yet. He's got it though.
But he's read it, right? He's read it. He just hasn't told you.
I'm pretty sure. If you ever met my brother, you would understand his situation, right? Like it's a tough situation. Like when I get to talk to my brother, it's a very small window that opens, right? So it's like the window opens and you get Robert for like 2 or 3 minutes. It's like, here's Robert. And then it closes. And now I gotta figure out a way to talk to my brother without getting mad because I'm not talking to my brother anymore. I'm talking to another personality right now. And it's just it's like this mental game that you have to play. And you have to also step back and understand that, hey, Robert's not, he's not healthy. So yeah, man, I'm sorry. We got deep on this one, huh?
No, man, this is what it's all about. I mean, I almost feel like this is kind of how you started to find your voice, right? Is you started to go deep and really go inner in terms of the culture that you originate from, your family. And you started with your mom, of course, who was 100%. Kind of,
I know the joke that I started with. It took me so I was doing stand-up, like I was already 15 years in, right? And I was doing great, man. I was on the Black College Comedy Tour. I was opening up for famous Black comics. You know what I mean? I was always the opener for like Michael Blackson, Cedric the Entertainer, Mike Epps, Snoop Dogg. I'm doing all this stuff like early 90s and, mid 90s to early 2000. And then, but I always stayed in like this pocket, because it was safe there. Just do the easy jokes that everyone knows. You know what I mean? Let's just stay right here. I wanted to talk about my mom, but it's like, how do I do it? I live in a country where it's very normal to make fun of Asians, and Asians are okay with it. It's okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, to see my mom have a little kid pull her eyes back on my mom like that on the escalator, and my mom just go, "It's okay, Joseph. He's just being funny." Like, to see that with my mom, it normalized me. You know what I mean? Because I'm living in this country where I'm like, oh, that's okay. So now how do I become funny in a workspace that's dominated by a particular group that's, that's pretty much, I'll say it, white. You know what I'm saying? They control it. You know what I mean?
It's true.
And it's like, how do I do it? How do I tell my story? How do I make it relatable to them? Because I already know how it is. I know how they already look at us. I already know how they look at my mom. I see it on TV. What are my inspirations on TV? You know what I mean? Oh, okay. Pat Morita has to have a thick Asian accent to get a Hollywood part, even though the guy never even spoke Japanese. You know what I mean? But his legacy is
crazy.
One of the greatest characters of all time. Let's not lie. Mr. Miyagi is amazing, but the guy never spoke. He never even spoke. He spoke perfect English. I think he was from America. You know what I mean? But that was
think about the role itself, though. It's not even just the accent, right? Just the role that he has to fit into in the type of movie that he's been into, just to be able to have an Asian character in a movie.
Exactly, and to explain that to people, like, that was my inspiration, right? Well, as a kid, that's my inspiration, right? Because I'm trying to find other Asians within the industry. And it's like, and it sucks because I am half white, but it's like, let's be honest, man. You know what I mean? When my mom and dad divorced, I'm being raised by Asians. You know what I mean? My best friends were all Koreans. Like, that's all I used to talk about was me being Korean. You know what I mean? And not me being Korean, but hanging out with Koreans, you know what I mean? And then my Filipino side, like, all I knew was just this Asian circle that was around me. So it's like, what's my inspiration? What do I get inspired by? You know what I mean? And so you do whatever was normalized in that situation, right? Yeah. So it's like, when I first started coming up, of course I'm doing those jokes. I'm doing those jokes to make whatever laugh because I have to. Yeah. And that's no excuse for me. I'm not trying to make an excuse, but that's the time. You know what I mean? And it took me a while. It took me like 15 years to be like, yo, I talk about my mom. You know what I mean? But how? How do I do it where I'm not making fun of my mom? How do I do it to where I'm just doing my mom, but yet they'll know that she's Filipino or they'll know she's Asian? But how do I make it to where people love her? And it was literally the Wii. When the Wii came out, when Nintendo came out with the Wii, it was Christmas and she was playing with my son. And I was just watching my mom play this Wii with my mom. She's just talking shit. I've never seen her do it before. You know what I mean? I've seen her talk shit, but not like that. She's like, oh, there you go. Okay, who's next? You know what I mean? And I was like, okay. And I went on stage and I just did that. And I was like, got it. I got it. I'm going to be my mom. I'm going to physically become my mom. And that's how it all started, the Wii. And then from there, I just got more confident with like deeper stories, you know what I mean? And just like shining light on like my childhood with my mom and comparing it with my son and my mom and and myself, and comparing the two different styles of parenting, and that was my whole goal with that. And then it took off, you know what I mean? And I'm glad it did. I'm glad I'm that voice, you know what I mean? But you know, that's how it all went down, man.
Yeah, man. And even when you're special,
easy, bro. It wasn't easy, man. I will tell you that. You know, like we say, oh, he's got that Netflix special. And it's like, yo, I didn't have that Netflix special. You know what I mean?
We'll talk about that. I mean, you actually, you made it happen, right? Like you put in your own money to talk to me a little bit about how you actually went through that.
Yeah, well, they turned me down. And, you know, and before Netflix, because Netflix made this big announcement. I think it was 2015. They said, hey, we're not going to buy content anymore. We're going to start making our own content, original Netflix specials. And they went after all these big name comics, right? And they were just signing deal after deal after deal. And they were like, it will come out 2017, 2016. We're going to shoot all these specials. And I heard about it and I was like, I need to be on that list. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say, I'm just saying, like, if you would have seen my numbers in 2015, I was crushing, bro. Like my numbers were massive. Like I was breaking records at improvs. Like I was doing 2 weeks in a row. Like no one was doing that. Like I was doing 18 sold out shows in a row 5 months in advance. Like I wasn't even advertising. I wasn't even doing radio. It was just like you put my name on the marquee and every show would sell out. Like legit. Like that was what was going on. And I was just like, oh, they're going to approach me because why wouldn't they? Right. That was my mindset. Why wouldn't they? Like I'm literally the biggest comic on this circuit right now, you know, and yes, there are other big names. What I'm saying is at that time, man, I was crushing. So it was like, why aren't you approaching me? You know what I mean? Just like you're approaching the other big guys. I'm one of those big guys. So why aren't you approaching me? And they never, ever, ever approached me. So then we started calling them. You're like, hey, you know, love for you to see this hour, blah, blah, blah. You know, they knew of me, they heard of me or whatever it was. And then they were like, oh, we'll come check out this hour. And I was like, this hour, I'm telling you, you got to see, it's perfect for Netflix. Dude, we kept calling and calling. There was times where they would say, all right, we'll be there tonight to see you. And then right when the show starts, we get a phone call. Oh, I'm sorry, we had to cancel. And it's just like, it was like they were dangling this cheese in front of me and making me chase it, you know? And then finally it just came to the point where it was like late 2015. It was like late 2015. And I was getting nervous. I'm like, dude, they're going to start shooting. 2016, they're shooting all these specials for 2017. I was like, dude, they called us and they were like, hey, yeah, we already got all our specials for 2017. So let's just wait till 2017. And then, you know, on the next run, we'll come and look at you. And I was just like, bro, 2015, 16, 17, 18, that's 4 years. Like the stuff I'm talking about, my son's 12. It's like, dude, I won't be able to. I was like, screw it, I'll shoot it myself. And we literally, my manager was like, you got the money, let's do this. My manager helped me. And we shot that special ourselves. And literally I paid for everything. I had to get the venue. Crazy, I hired the directors, the stage behind me, the setting behind me. And I did my research. I was studying all these other specials and how to make it sound just like the best thing I could put on TV. But I was pissed, dude. I was so pissed off because I was just like, why is it that I'm the only one that has to do this? And I'm not saying I'm the only one, but why am I doing it? Why am I shooting? Yeah. Why is everyone else getting this shot? And there was even guys that were opening for me that got a Netflix special. Yeah, man, that I took on the road. And I was like, what? Really?
So why do you think this
I didn't go public though. I never went like, oh, screw Netflix. Everyone cancel your subscription.
Right, yeah.
This is definitely some type of, I didn't want to do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I understand where they're coming from. Like it's a business, right? Whoever's in charge of handing out these specials are in charge of a lot of money. And if they make the wrong decision, they get in trouble for it. I get it. It's a business. But this one they messed up on. You know what I mean? You didn't do your work. You didn't do your right work. I don't know what it was that you didn't see in me, that you didn't think that it deserved to be on that platform. But I had to prove to them that they were wrong. So I shot it myself, you know? Yo, check this out, man. We spent so much money on that special that like it was a lot of money. And then we still get a phone call like up until we were supposed to shoot. And it was Netflix, and they're like, hey, we know that you're shooting it, but we also want to let you know that we're really not interested. Like they were trying so hard to push away because they didn't want any type of like, you know what I mean? They didn't want anyone coming at them like, hey man, you said if we shot it. They were like, no, we really want you to know that if you shoot this, we don't want it. So that was what I was walking out on stage with. Like people don't know the backstory on that, you know? They don't know that I'm being funny, but like backstage, just before I walked out, I was pissed. I was crying. My son is sleeping. I'm just like, yo, why do I got to shoot this shit myself, dude? This is fucked up. You know, I was so mad. My agent, my manager, they were just like, yo, just do your best, man. Just crush it tonight like you always do and let us handle this. Don't worry about it. Like they were so good. But I was mad, man. You know? Like, what is it? What is it about my mom that you didn't want to hear? Or what was it about my story that you didn't want to hear? Like, what was it? What was it that you didn't get? What did you get? Anyways.
Do you think this goes back to full circle about the people that are in charge of making these decisions are, for lack of a better, white, and they just can't relate?
I don't want to say that. Because I love the team that's there now. You know what I mean? I love the Netflix team that's there. They've been nothing but gracious to me. But I mean, whoever was there before, I don't know what happened. I don't know what that was. But when I shot it and I cut it up myself and I brought it to them within an hour, like an hour that I dropped it on their table, they were like, do not shop this anywhere else. We want it. And I knew they were going to buy it. Like when I cut that thing, I remember sitting in the editing bay and I looked at my manager and the guy that helped us edit. And I was like, yo, we got ourselves a special. Like this one's special. And yeah, so it was cool to be like, finally appreciated. You know what I mean? And, don't get me wrong. I cried again. I always cry, right? But that was just like an emotional moment. Like, yo, like, why'd you guys make me work so hard for this? It just sucks. It's just like, and then when they the most hurtful thing you could say to somebody like, especially somebody like us is like, why do you gotta do stuff on your mom? Why do you gotta talk about your mom, man? And I'm just like, yo, man, if I don't, then who is? Because Hollywood ain't. How many Filipino TV shows have you ever seen? How many Filipino characters have you ever seen represented where they're just a mom?
Yeah.
100 years in Hollywood. How many times? I can name 2. I can name 3. And that's all 3 of my specials.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I never shot them, then we'd never see them.
Yeah.
Or when I do the joke about Asians, telling Asians apart. Listen to the dynamic of that joke, man. Like, listen to it, man. Like, really see how carefully written that joke was. You know what I mean? Like, really hear it, man. Like, you know what I mean? It was my way of showing, like, this way of us laughing at ourselves. You know what I mean? But also proud of ourselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, yo, that is us, and that's dope. You know what I mean? And the way I wrote that joke, I wanted to make sure it was like, when I did the Vietnamese joke, when I wrote that joke, it was about my sister's ex-boyfriend's brother. You know what I mean? His name was V. He lived right next to us and he used to talk like that. You know what I mean? And I was just like, yo, but the one thing you don't want to do is mess with that guy. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, those are, they're small, but they'll mess you up. Like there was these things that I did to also, like, it was, let's have fun, but let me also compliment you. You know what I mean? And I wanted you to be proud of what I was doing. I wanted to give my best version of that. You know what I mean? And I clearly said at the beginning of that joke, it was like, only when they have an accent. You know what I mean? Like, only when they have an accent. Because without one, you can't. All right? Yeah. So don't even try. Because you're going to look stupid. But if they do, there are subtleties that you can probably, you know what I mean? Like, there was those things that I was trying to do and just give that voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Something to be proud about, man. Like, I love it when Vietnamese people come to my show, like, yo, finally, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Or when Koreans come up to me, they're like, they love it. They love it. And it makes me happy because it's like, finally, it's this representation of, like, we're celebrating together, right? I hope that makes sense. You know what I mean?
It does, man.
Like this, here we go. Here's a good representation of us, and here's a good way of us laughing about it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope that makes sense. But to me, that was everything. And it was so important that I got that out there. I had to get that out there. So yeah. So it's just like
you
when
work
you
for
think
it too.
about it, when you think about it, it's just like, who else is going to do it, man? Who else? No one else is going to do it. I got that note one time when I was supposed to do a talk show. I'm not going to give the names, right? But there was this one talk show, which I'll never do again. And
is it
the
famous?
note
Like
was-
pretty big?
Oh yeah, huge.
Okay.
It was the most like, it was to promote my coming in hot special. And the note was, hey, we love everything, but if you don't mind, can you not do the joke about your mom? And I'm like, what?
That is your whole, that's your thing. Like,
But why?
yeah. Like,
Why though? Like, tell me your honest reason why. Because to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, why? Why are you telling me to not talk about my mom? If I don't talk about my mom, who else is? How else am I going to make a lot of people in this country that are my mom's, ethnicity and her background and her generation?
yeah.
When is it that they pay taxes, they watch TV, all the advertisements that are sponsoring your show, they buy, bro. You know what I mean? So they're helping your show be on the air. So why is it that one little moment you don't want them to have some type of identity or some type of relatable content that they can embrace, even though they're not the majority? So that's what that's based on, because they're not the majority, that they don't have a voice. Then what kind of responsibility do you have?
Yeah.
So we're only going to cater to what? The majority? So what? 68% of the population is white? So that's who we cater to, huh? So anybody else that's American that just happens to be ethnic doesn't have a voice because they're not the majority. Middle America is not going to get it. All right. That doesn't make sense to me.
So how do you push back? You just say, no, like, screw off.
I just keep pushing forward, bro.
I'm going to do it. Yeah.
I just got to keep shooting these specials. I just got to keep, I have to, I'm glad if that's your excuse. Oh, why do you keep? Like, why wouldn't I keep? What kind of question is that? You don't ask that for anybody else. I don't understand why. You don't ask that for anybody else.
Yeah.
But when someone else talks about their mom that just happens to be ethnic, it's a question. I don't get it. I'm sorry I'm bringing it here, but it's just like, it bothers me all the time. And it's so funny when, when I first came to Hollywood, it was always that excuse like, oh, we don't know if middle America get it. Who cares? Who cares if middle America doesn't get it?
Right.
Right? Who cares? When you control that much power, you have a responsibility. You have a responsibility, dude. You can't have that much power and just be selfish. Now you're being oppressive. Like, now you're just like controlling. And that's not cool. When you have that much power, you have to share. You have to. You know what I mean?
But also look at your numbers. Like, numbers don't lie.
That's what I don't get. That
it's just,
bro, how am I selling out? Dude, I just put Sacramento. Like, I'm going to play Sacramento Arena where the Kings play, right? Where the Kings play. Sold the first show out in less than an hour.
How many
Second
seats?
show is almost sold out. I'm doing 2 arenas in Sacramento. I sold 2 forums out, sold 2 Chase Centers before the Warriors even play there. I went to Australia, sold out the arena there. Sold out Radio City Music Hall a year in advance. Omaha, Nebraska, Nashville, I just sold out the Ryman Theater. No Asians. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was like a handful of Asians. It was all like white people, black people, Latino, like everyone's getting it, man. So like, I'm trying to understand what they're talking about. But that was my whole thing. It's just like, what are you talking about? Like, yo, if you have that much power, it's your social responsibility to share. You have to. You can't sit there and just say, hey, middle America's not going to get it. Well, guess what, man? Guess what, dude? There's a small percentage of this population that isn't middle America. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But they're consumers, they're taxpayers, they watch your programs, but yet you're not giving them an identity and you're not giving them something to relate to. And that's not fair. It's your responsibility to do that. It sucks. How are you going to come out with a show called Nurses and not have one Filipino nurse? What are you talking about?
That doesn't make sense.
But yet you want Filipino nurses, which you saw, and I know you've seen in every damn hospital in this country.
My mom's a nurse, man. I mean, I get
exactly.
it.
You know how many nurses in my family? But yet you're going to come out with a show on NBC called Nurses and not one Filipino on that poster. But yet you want the nursing staff at every hospital in America to support that show? How are they even going to watch it? What are they relating to? What? The scrubs that they're wearing? They don't even see anyone that looks like them. It doesn't even look like their shift. That's what I just don't get.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, when I've been dealing with all that, I don't get it. And by the way, I love Netflix. They give me everything now. I have another special with them, you know what I mean? And I've said this to them personally, you know what I mean? And I love everybody there. Robbie, Joanne, Neil, Robert, like all these, there's such a great crew over there. And, it's just, I guess what I had to do was that I had to open up that door. You know what I mean? That's why when I got In His Elements and I went to the Philippines, no shit, I'm going to go to the Philippines. No shit.
Was that hard to convince them to do an entire special based on? Okay, so they were fair.
When they saw what happened with the first two specials that came out.
Yeah.
And then I told them, please let me go to the Philippines. Like, let's just do a show where there's comedy and singing, and let's give opportunity to Filipino artists that live in the Philippines and show them that it is possible to dream. You know what I mean? Here's a big network coming here to, showcase you. And it's just like, we'll cross promote. We'll have Filipino Americans go to the Philippines and deal with, and interact with Filipinos that are trying to make it in the same business. Like, I just wanted this whole thing and just mesh it together within an hour. You know what I mean? Let me show just one dish. Let me just show one dish of my food, just so people know, oh, we have this. You know what I mean? This is our food, and these are our people. And, oh, they speak English. And, let me just do that. And they loved it. They were like, yeah, let's do it. And my favorite compliment from that special, In His Elements, was Tommy Lee, the drummer from Motley Crue.
Yeah.
He's a great fan of. He loved. We're friends, right? But we met through DM because he watched my Coming in Hot special, and he just DM'd me. He was like, "Bro, you're so funny. Me and my wife are dying, right?" And we became friends, and then and then In His Elements came out, and immediately right when that aired, he DM'd me. He was like, "Yo, I've never been to the Philippines. I had no idea they could speak English." He's like, "Dude, Motley Crue's never been there." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah, you're just opening up the country for these people. Yeah.
But that was the whole goal of that special, because someone like him, as iconic as he is and as huge as they are, he has no idea that there's singers in the Philippines that sound just like Vince Neil. You know what I mean? That speak English, sing their songs, and
man, fucking karaoke.
I mean? It just took that one little door to open for him to be like, "We're going, man." And that, to me, that's what it was all worth right there. That was worth it right there.
I love it, man. Well, listen, I want to dig into how you go through this process, your creative process, your artistic process, from this vision that you have of making the special. You're coming up with a new special now. Yeah. You're coming out with the content itself. I mean, it's really hard, right? Because now you have this big name and you need to go out and test your work and feel it out, see what works, and really you're really crafting this art, right? You're curating what works, you're throwing out what doesn't, and you're just constantly experimenting. Yeah. It has a big name now. I mean, what's your relationship with Rejection, and how have you kind of evolved from it from the start of your career?
I've been kind of blessed, man. It's like I get to work stuff out on, in front of huge crowds, you know what I mean? So it's kind of easy now. My first special that I shot, it was called Don't Make 'Em Angry. I was playing rooms with 15 people, I'm trying to find areas to work jokes out. And then I don't know if I'm getting an honest reaction, or are they just too drunk, or are they even listening? Like, that was hard. You know what I mean? Like trying to figure that out. But now I've been kind of blessed because within an hour, like my last hour special, I was already working on my next hour. You know what I mean? And then when that one came out, I was already working on this hour. So I just kind of like work these new jokes in between old jokes and figure out, you know, what's funny and what's not for the next special. But now that I've been laid off for 15 months, you know, there's this whole new life that was presented to the whole world that I need to talk about. You know what I mean? And I got to figure that out because, you know, I got to shine light on how my son went through his senior year. I got to shine light on how I dealt with, you know, not being able to work for 15 months, you know what I mean? Which was crazy. You know, it was like, you know, that was my everything. It was taken from me. You know what I mean? That's the only thing I knew. You know what I mean? So I was like, what do you do? It's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I wasn't going to buy into the other stuff. I was like, oh, just do a Zoom comedy show. It's just like comedy. I'm like, no, it's not.
No, that's not going to work.
I don't even know how to turn the computer on still. So yeah, so that's the stuff I'm talking about, and I'm figuring it out. But it's been good, man. I'm already at an hour and 15 right now, so it's been good.
Wow, and you got your brother stuff in there as well.
I'm trying. It's hard, bro. I wish I
can do it, bro. Come on.
I know. Believe me, I want to.
I think it's really going to be special if you can incorporate that in there, especially with how he may have dealt with, you know, 15 months or 12 months alone by himself, you know, in his own thoughts. I mean, there's a lot of stuff there, I feel.
Yeah, you're right. I will, but you also got to understand, for you to say it, it's easy.
Yeah,
I totally live and publicly is very emotional. Yeah. So even if I am trying to be funny, I'm pretty sure something's going to come out of this eye right here. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a little bit of wetness. Like,
yeah, man. Have you also dealt with, you know, just throughout comedy, one of the correlations I've seen is certainly the difficulties of like dealing with mental health and the origins of how people become comedians, right? Obviously you've had a very traumatic childhood, but how have you dealt throughout your evolution of your career, just your overall mental health and how you've dealt with that?
You know, it's mentally it's tough. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's a very strenuous schedule, but you know, you have a lot of sacrifices, and it hurts, you know, to miss like my son's birthday, and it's like I'm always apologizing and telling my son, and my son is the coolest kid. You know what I mean? He gets it. He knows what I'm doing, and he knows what I'm doing is not just a good time. You know what I mean? Like he knows this is my life. He knows that, you know, his lifestyle is because of these sacrifices, and you know, I'm doing this all for him. And you know, but it still hurts, you know, to be in Vancouver in quarantine, celebrating your son's birthday via FaceTime. Like that's rough. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, that's the kind of stuff that is tough, and I have to get mentally prepared for that because this schedule is going to be crazy. It goes all the way until 2023.
Wow.
And, you know, and then the movie was just, you know, that was new, but it was fun to do, but man, it was stressful. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it was just great. So yeah, that's what I'm dealing with right now. And I know I can get through it. So I can't wait. I'm more excited than I am stressed, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel that I was listening to this interview with Jerry Seinfeld, and he was asked this question, which is, you know, a lot of people with that comedic mindset have depressive episodes, and I'm curious to get your thoughts. Like, do people that have that, do they sometimes fear seeking for help, thinking that it might rob them of their comedic side? Kind of the X factor that they get from that dark moments that they have in their minds?
It is a style thing. You know what I mean? Not everyone can talk about it.
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. And just overall,
not everyone can talk about it, man. It's you know, I look at comedy as genres, you know what I mean? I break them down in genres. There's people that do puppets, and I love it. And there's people that do music, You know what I mean? With keyboards, and I love it. Like I love all the different styles, and political. There's guys that I would never touch a political topic because I just don't have it. I don't know how to banter or make it. To me, I couldn't make it funny. Like I just couldn't. I wouldn't do it justice. I'll make it funny, but I wouldn't do it justice. Like I wouldn't be able to do it like a Chris Rock or a Bill Maher or whoever, Dennis Miller, whoever's in that Lewis Black, those guys that sit in that political pocket, sure. Right? But and then there's people that talk about their families, you know what I mean? And those are the ones when I was a kid, I enjoyed it, dude. I loved listening to people talk about their families, you know what I mean? And those were my inspirations, seeing the family comedy, the Tim Allen, the Louis Anderson, Eddie Murphy, Bill, before all this crap happened. You know what I mean? It was just hearing those stories of a kid and a mom or a dad. It was just like, I'd be on the floor holding my gut, just dying. Cause it's just like, I do that. You know what I mean? I always was like, I just loved it. I loved hearing that style. So that it's a completely different style, man, to be able to open up and put it all out there. But it's equally as hard to do what they do. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be able to do that. The observational stuff. I can't. I mean, I can, but it's just like, I don't want it.
Actually, like those guys, I could do it.
I could do that.
I could do it better too.
I could do that off the top of my head. But I would never like try and hone in and do an hour and 15 on that. Like, that's just not my genre. That's not my thing.
Do you think about, because when you think about your kind of the evolution of your career, 15 years ago, you found that talking about your family, talking about your culture, that was this X factor and this key thing that really defined you and really catapulted you, right?
Yeah.
Do you ever think like in the next 10 years that you're going to be able to find another kind of this big pillar within your comedy act that would allow you to even extend further? And do you constantly experiment with things like observational comedy and things things like,
bro, like that's always my thing. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you can go to two of my shows back to back. It's going to be two different shows. You know what I mean? And that's always been my thing. Observation's easy for me. You know what I mean? Like I love to interact with the crowd and improvise and ad lib. And I think that's what keeps my chops going. That's what keeps it fresh and new. I don't like to deliver the same routine back to back. Like I wouldn't like do a Friday show and it's identical on Saturday. I would never do that. It's just because of me personally. It's like this self-challenge. And so and not only that, I just have like this unlimited amount of stories I haven't even told yet. You know what I mean? Like it's like you pick two stories and it's like they go for 12 minutes. It's like you only get an hour. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I love where I'm at. And I love the pocket that I'm in. So there is going to be some new stuff on this one that I am going to talk about that I can't wait to say. And I just feel like I have, a lot more people behind me that can support it now. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
Yeah. So,
whereas I was just a young up and coming kid back in the day where I'm just like, okay, yeah. Oh yeah, I get it. So that's what you want. Okay. I'll talk about that. Whatever you want me to do. So now I'm in that position where it's like, okay, I can open up about certain things and not be afraid to say it now. Yeah,
man. I mean, you've had such a long lasting career throughout this entire time. And I understand that it took a while to really get you to this level, right? And it's fairly recent that this has happened. I like you're always up on top, but for you to really get to this insane level, selling
but it almost didn't happen.
Stadiums, and it almost didn't happen, and you took a bet on yourself. I mean, how do you think you've been able to be patient amongst this time? I'm sure, I listened to Bobby Lee's podcast as well, and he always talks about this idea of people that he started with and the level that they got to when maybe he was just 10 years into it, and seeing people that just when he was starting, or maybe people that were opening for him were having greater success than he was at certain points. I mean, how do you develop and stay grounded when you're in this long game?
And I share the same story with Bobby. By the way, Bobby and I go way back. I don't know if you know that. Right. We go 25 years back. Like we go way back. And
he always talks about you, by the way.
I know, I'm pretty, sometimes it'll be a shitty thing he'll say about me, and then sometimes it'll be a beautiful thing he says about me. But no matter what, when him and I are together, we're always gonna be brothers. You know what I mean? And I love that about him, because he's phenomenal. I've always said it about him. Like, he said some things to me in a parking lot one time that really struck a chord, and it made me stick my gear into sixth, because I was sitting in like third gear and neutral a lot. I was enjoying just coasting, and there was a situation. I said it on his podcast to his face, where he yelled at me in a parking garage. It was Colorado Avenue. I'll give you the street location, and I'll even tell you that it was in Santa Monica. So I'll tell you exactly where it was. But it was in that parking garage when he literally yelled at me, and he said some things to me that, like, I remember getting in the car going, damn, like, fuck. And I just started my car and I just drove off, and then it burnt in my brain. And literally that night I went for it. Like, I'd never wanted Bobby to say that kind of stuff to me. You know what I mean? And I'm glad he did. I mean, it was, I've said it on his pod, but he was just like, it was, I don't want to repeat it, but it was good stuff. It was like, you just don't get it. And I don't want to say it right now, but I said it on his pod, but he said some choice things to me that really struck. And I'm glad he said it to me. And
was it just about that you can do better, and he was pushing you in like an
but there was also another thing that he said to me that was like, it was like a personal thing. Okay. And it struck so hard that I was just like, oh God, he's right. Like, he's so right. You know what I mean? And it made me work really, really hard. It made me really, really work hard, man. Bobby and I go way back, man. My first show that I ever put together at UNLV was Bobby Lee. And I remember selling that. Check this out. You want to hear some crazy stuff? Yeah. I remember asking, because in order to get the room at UNLV, University of Nevada, Las Vegas, I was trying to get the room at Student Union there. And this is like 25 years ago, right? And I go, but in order for me to get that room, if I wasn't going to the school full time, because I was only a part-time student, I had to pay $2,000 for this room, right? Because you had to house it, seat it. You had to get seats, and you had to get staff, and you had all this stuff, and you had to keep the lights open. So it was like $2,000, right? Or something like that, or like 50, whatever. He goes, but if you're a student, you get it for free. You get it for $150. And then the lady at the office goes, you might want to just ask some student, student things, organizations, to see if they'll sponsor it. Yeah. And I go, I'm going to go to the Filipino Student Association. That's a no-brainer. And I went to this Filipino Student Association. We had a big meeting inside and this is 25 years ago. And I know you guys are watching now because you guys messed up. I had this meeting. I made these flyers at Kinko's. It was like a bio of Bobby Lee, who had no credits at the time, like no Mad TV, no Comedy Central. Nothing. He was just an up and coming comic. And then there was me, and then this other cat named Mark Fernandez. He was Filipino. He was out of San Diego. We were just up and coming Asian comics, right? And my whole pitch was, hey man, we're just Asian comics trying to do some stand up, and we would love to entertain you guys. All we need you to do is sign off on this paper so we can get this venue for free. You don't have to pay us, because we're going to charge $5 at the door, and that'll pay for the comics, because I'm flying them in from blah, blah, blah. And all we need is your help, right? But you will help inspire other Asians to do stand-up by helping us. Like, that was my whole pitch, right? And I gave them the bios and everything. I'm like, oh, okay, we love it. I go, I'm Jo Koy. I'm Filipino. My mom used to be in the Filipino, it was called Filipino American Sofa. I forget what it was called, but she was in this thing with a bunch of Filipinos too. And I told her about it, and I was like, "Oh, my mom was in this Filipino organization in the in Washington, and I used to do all these talent shows with my mom, and so I get it. This would be a great thing to bring back to the student body and see other Asians excelling." Like I was trying to sell it, like in their dream, making their dreams come true as being I thought I sold it. I get a phone call. Yeah, we're going to pass. I'm like, what? Like, why are you going to pass, you guys? Like, all you have to do is sign. All you have to do is sign the paper. We're good.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was dating this white girl at the time. And she was, and I remember telling her the story at work. And I was like, yo, they passed on me. I can't even throw this show. And they passed. And her coworker, I forget his name. I wish I could remember, man. I love this guy. He goes, I'll sign it. I go, what? He goes, why not? I'll sign it. He goes, my fraternity signed it. We'll sign anything. And he signed it. So I got this venue for free by this white guy. Wow. I forget his name. If he's watching, I know he is because he came to one of my shows and I hugged him so hard. He came to a show like 5 years ago and I hugged him. I go, dude, you're the reason why I'm doing comedy, man. You saved my life back then. Because I bought those tickets for Bobby and Mark and everything. I had hotel rooms, but I didn't have a venue. Anyways, long story short, I remember when we signed it, they brought me to the venue and I go, man, you're going to need about 1,000 seats in here. We're going to pack this room. Right? So they put in 1,000 seats, right?
Oh my God.
So packed. And Bobby came in and Mark came in and it was like 8:00, right? The show was supposed to start at 8 and no one's there. And the student union is empty. And I'm just like, oh, my dad was there and he brought a person that he worked with there. So there was like 9 people in the front row. I got 1,000 empty seats, bro.
Oh my God.
And Bobby's there, and I'm just looking at Bobby like, oh man, I'm sorry, man. Oh, by the way, it was a free show. It wasn't $5 a show. It was a free show, and I was going to get sponsors to pay Bobby and Mark, and no one came. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sorry, Bobby. He's like, no, it's not a big deal, man. We'll just go up anyways. Let's have fun. And then all of a sudden, that kid that signed the paper, he brought his whole fraternity.
Oh,
it's like 30 deep, right?
So 39 people there.
Number up, but it was a lot of white dudes. And then they came in, and then they brought the sorority, and then they all came in.
There we go. There we go.
And I was just like, we got a show. It was like 90 people. I was like, we got a show. Dude, that was one of the best shows ever, man.
Oh my God.
Anyways, but there's some BTS for you. There's some behind the scenes of the struggle it takes to get, to where we're at now. But
well, it's obviously a key moment. You remember all the details of it.
Oh yeah, man. I still got those flyers, the programs. Yeah, where I went to little small businesses and I said I was making a program and I go, a half a page is $50, a full page is $100. It's gonna go to every single kid at UNLV. So it was so funny how I'd hustle like this money, man, but it worked. I still got that damn thing.
And you were what, 20, 25 back then?
I think I was about 24, 25.
24, 25. So
And
that's when you met Bobby then? Is that how you actually
met Bobby? When I was like 24, 25. Yeah. Maybe 20. I can't remember the actual year, but like about 25.
Wow.
That's nuts,
that's amazing, man.
But that's why when Netflix didn't give me the special and I shot it myself and paid for it, I was like, all right, I've been here before. You know what I mean? I've been doing this since day one. So
like full circle.
All right, this ain't nothing new. I got this. I'm glad I shot that special because if it wasn't for that special, I would have never got Coming In Hot. And Coming In Hot was the one I shot in Hawaii. And that's the one Steven Spielberg watched. And that's how I got the movie.
Wow.
So, yeah, Steven saw that. He watched it, brought me in, and they asked for a movie idea. I pitched him Easter Sunday, which I already pitched to Dan Lin. If you don't know who Dan Lin is, he owns Ride Back Films, and he made Lego movies. He's Aladdin with Will Smith, It 1, It 2. Like that's all Dan Lin. So I originally pitched this movie to Dan, and Dan said yes, he'll do it. But then I got called in by Steven's people, and I pitched the same movie, and because it wasn't really moving on Dan's part. Not because of Dan, but we just couldn't find a writer at the time. But Dan is just an amazing He's an amazing human and an amazing producer. But what ended up happening is Steven went ahead and bought it. And Dan came on as an executive producer anyways. And I had the dream team behind me. I had Spielberg and Dan Lin make Easter Sunday, which comes out Easter Sunday, 2022.
Dude, that is amazing. I mean, you've everything you're telling me, like it makes so much sense because you've just worked for it, right? 25 years and you've grinded, you've taken the risk even later in your career to be able to get on Netflix. I want to know, you know, I think being a stand-up comedian is probably one of the hardest jobs, right?
Ever. Oh, 100%.
You know, and it never gets easier necessarily because you're always going to get a new crowd. And for you to come into, let's say your 25-year-old self, who's probably naturally funny, you've got the foundations, the confidence. If you were to train someone to become a stand-up comedian, is there a formula for getting someone there? Or is it really for being a stand-up comedian, is it really just about putting in the time for the next 10, 15, 20 years? There's really no shortcut formula.
No, I started at 18, by the way. I started at 18. Mm-hmm. Okay. I started at 18 right out of high school. And then I met Bobby like 6 or 7 years in at a club called La Jolla Comedy Store. And that's how I met Bobby. And, but yeah, I started when I was 18. Bombed so bad, man. It's so bad. There's footage out there. I know they had it. Up. Huh?
Tell me about your first experience going up.
Oh my God, there's several, man. There was one where I joined a competition and I know the footage is out there. Someone's got it, but it was bad. And I invited everyone. It's so funny because I just saw
for your first one ever? You invited
everyone. First one ever.
Damn,
I was driving.
Confidence, man.
I was driving right? Oh man, I used to call comedy clubs cold call. I used to call them and go, hey, do you guys need an opener? Because I thought it'd be easy. I'm funny all the time. Just walk on stage. That's all you gotta do is be funny. I didn't know that there's structure. I didn't know that there's writing involved. I didn't understand that. And so I used to make cold calls and call every single comedy club in the country. I would just call them and be like, hey, do you need an opener? I can be out there anytime, man. If you need someone to open for the headliner, I can just go up and do like 10 minutes. Joseph Herbert. Yeah, H-E-R. No, not Herbert. And then I was driving to work one day and on the radio, they go, hey, we got this comedy competition at the Tropicana Hotel. Blah, blah, blah. It's the biggest fool. It's like all radio announcing. And I was like, what? He goes, the winner wins $10,000 and a chance to open up for a major headliner. You know what I mean? And whatever it was. And I was like, oh, I'm going to win this shit. Bro, that was the most embarrassing day of my life, man. I brought my, it was so funny because I was just in Vegas yesterday. And my cousin, my aunt, the one that named me Jo Koy, you know, her daughter is my cousin. She's like my best friend. She's the one I'm so close to. So Mona. So we were out to eat, and she was like, we were just talking about the book, right? And she's like, "Oh my God, dude, do you remember that Tropicana show?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Oh." She goes, I remember when we had to walk out. I did not want to walk next year. I was like, oh, that's so messed up. Because it was packed. There was like 400 people. And like literally I was walking with everyone, like my family. And like, you know, when someone does so horribly, you can't say anything. You're just like, oh, you're just next to them.
Family members. Yeah.
That's exactly how the whole family, we were all just walking. Like it was just this walk of death. And it was just me. And of course I had the brightest shirt on because I wanted to be seen on stage. I remember backstage in my head that the manager was going to be on the phone going, oh my God, I found the next guy. He's right here. What do you want me to do? You want me to hold him? Want me to get his name? Like in my head, that's what I thought was going to happen. Dude, it was awful. I remember looking to the side and the guy was like, get the fuck off the stage. I wouldn't get off the stage. I didn't know how. I was bombing so hard. I was just like, I need a laugh. And I just kept digging a hole deeper and deeper. It was so bad. And that was the worst experience of my life. I don't wish that on anyone. Then the second time was I painted in my mustache because I was only 19. So I had like this baby hair and I took my mom's like, you know, that thing that it's a stick with the bristles. They do their eyelashes.
Yeah, for the eyelashes.
Eyelashes one. And I did
that for your precious.
I put that shit on my fucking mustache, bro.
Did that looking older would help your comedy?
Oh yeah, no, because it was in a bar. I was only
Oh,
19.
right.
So it was at this bar, and it was on Tropicana and Eastern. I went there just recently. I took my did I take my son there yet? I got to take my son there. It's still the same. There's still a stage. The bar's still there. Everything's intact. It's identical. And I went up after a Lionel Richie impersonator. Like it was just this Star Search style comedy. It was comedy music, and whoever was the best of the night got to win. So you could be singing, poetry, whatever, comedy. I was the comedy guy. And I bombed so bad, man. It was so bad, dude. I remember I had that fake mustache, and I was so nervous that I got in, like when the waitress goes, "Do you want something to drink?" And I just said, "Oh, I'll just have a Coke," because I didn't want to order a drink because I want her to check my ID again.
Yeah.
Even though they never checked my ID. And then I went up and bombed, and the Lionel Richie impersonator, God, I wish this guy would like see me and go, "Oh, that's that guy." But he goes, "Hey, man." Oh, because I remember sitting next to him. I go, "Dude, that sucked, man. God, that sucked." And then he goes, "Hey, man, I'll say this. You got great stage presence." That's what he said to me. He goes, "So don't be down on yourself, man. Like I was watching you. There's something about you on stage that I liked watching, but you just got to tighten up those jokes, man. Come up with some better ideas." I drove home going, "All right. Thank God he said that, because if he would have said anything else, I probably would have quit."
Dude, I was just going to say 2 in a row, you've bombed. I don't know many people that would continue after that. So you think that moment was really was just enough to get you going to do it the third time?
Yeah. And then there was a couple more times where I bombed. There was one on Ventura Boulevard where I drove hours to get to, and that was humiliating. Then there was another time where I just quit. At the Comedy Store. I was supposed to go up, but Ari Spears was in front of me. He's another comic, and he was crushing. This is back when he was like 22 years old, just this young black comic, just full of energy, and he was just killing it. And I remember looking at the host going, "I don't want to go up," and I drove home. I drove there 5 hours, and I drove back and didn't go up. Shit. And the guy that hosted, he goes, "If you go home today," he goes, "you'll probably never, ever go up on stage." He goes, "I'm telling you, just go up and bomb." That's what he said to me. "Just go up and bomb." He goes, "The more you bomb, it just gets easier." I go, "Nah, I'm good." And I drove home. Dude, I remember driving home going, "Why did I drive home?" I told Aries that story, man. So it was kind of a cool thing. It was kind of a cool loop because we ended up co-headlining a show together. And it was just cool to finally be like, "Yeah, man." I remember that day when I drove home because I didn't want to follow you, and here we are co-headlining this event together. So it was kind of a cool
full circle.
Event. Yeah, but the coffee house is where it finally took off. It was called Buzzy's Cafe, and I got my first laugh. It was in the corner of this coffee house, and I had my camera rolling, and someone laughed, and I remember thinking that it was the biggest laughter. I remember in the moment, it just sounded like enormous.
Yeah.
Like I was like,
"It's your first one."
It was my first one, and I remember he'd clap it. But when I heard it, it sounded like 10,000 people clapping.
It was like people in a stadium. Yeah.
And my heart started pounding. I was like, "Yo, that's my first applause break." And I remember going home and plugging my camera into my VCR and watching it, and literally it just sounded like this. It was so bad. And I remember looking at it going, "Oh, okay, that sucked." But I mean, and then I was like, "I made him clap." But I remember in the moment, it sounded huge, bro. In my head, I was like, I got to stand.
Probably just froze, right?
Yeah. Everything froze. Yeah, exactly. Time froze, and it was just in a moment. But that was the start of my addiction. Like I had to get more of those and figure out how to be there all the time, how to always get that type of consistent laughter.
That was your fourth time. It took you 4 runs to get your first laugh.
Fifth try. Then I started
try to get your first laugh. Wow. Yeah. Damn, dude. Yeah. That is persistency.
Yeah. And by the way, when I say bomb, I'm talking the worst. Like me just describing it to you, you don't even understand how bad it was. It was bad. It was bad. Most people would have just been like, "What am I doing?" Even I said that. What am I doing? I can't do this. This is crazy. I remember watching comedians going, I can't do that. What is he doing? And I would just literally watch every day, figure it out. How did he get to that joke in 5 seconds? How did he get an applause break in 5 seconds? Why? How many words did he cut out? Okay, this joke is too long. I remember like laughing, but reading a whole paragraph to get to one laugh. I'm like, all right, well, let me just get to that laugh. Let me cut all this stuff out. Just try and figure out this sentence. It was like this whole thing, dude. I got all these notebooks that I used to date and I got them stacked up, man. It's just like 1990, 1991. You just see all these jokes and me scratching stuff out and arrows and circles. And it's crazy, man.
That's insane, man. I mean, looking back, if you were able to talk to that Jo Koy, the person that's starting out before the coffee house, right?
Yeah.
What would you tell him?
Oh, I would tell him to do it and love it. Be passionate about it. You know, it's a long, 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 long road. I say this all the time. I know it's corny, but it is a long road and it's bumpy and there's potholes and there's gravel and sometimes there's no pavement. You know what I mean? There's no concrete underneath it. It's not a flat surface. You're gonna pop a couple tires. You know what I mean? Probably gonna lose the brakes sometimes. But you know what? Just stay in that car and just keep driving, man. Because the journey it's crazy, but wherever you're getting to is paradise. I'm telling you, you know, I love where I'm at. It took me 32 years to drive here, bro, you know, and I love it. And I'm still driving, you know what I mean? I'm still driving. So yeah, that's what I always say, man. It's a long, windy, bumpy road, but just stay on it, man. Stay on your path, stay on that journey and be passionate, man. You know, your heart first. Don't change anything for money. You know what I mean? Yeah. Change it because your heart told you to change it. You know what I mean? Stay with it because your heart told you to stay with it. That's where you want to be.
And what gets you going now?
I tweeted that like a week ago. I was like, what did I say? I said something like, if you're doing something and there's no heart in it, then you're not living, right? Yeah, you're not living. If your heart is not into something that you're doing, then you're not living. You're just doing something.
Yeah.
And that's not living. It's got to have life, man.
Yeah.
What are you passionate about?
And what gets you going now? You've reached the, you know, one of the pinnacles. You've as you mentioned, like you're continuing to rise. You've got this momentum going. I mean, how do you keep going without resting on your laurels? How do you get excited?
I just want to keep opening doors. I want to keep creating opportunity. Just that in his elements, you know, that little girl, Fatia, you know, the little girl that was rapping. She's just a little girl, dude. You know, and here she is working with Illmind and her dad. Her dad's a huge producer in the Philippines, and Illmind, you know, he's got Grammys with Drake and you know, Jay-Z, and I was able to merge those two together, and that's all I wanted. And then she ended up signing a deal with Def Jam. It's just like, that's, to me, is like what it's all about. Like, hey man, I knew how hard it was for me to get my foot in the Netflix door. And now that I have it just a little bit open, I'm going to bring them all in. You know what I mean? Let's go. Let's get as many as I can in here. And it doesn't have to just be Filipino. I want to bring everybody in. Who else can I talk about? Who else can I bring into my crew? You know what I mean? Let's go. You know, I want to create more specials. You know, I want to get more names out there. There's so many funny comics out there that deserve to be looked at, you know, and, you know, Mateo Lane and Asif Ali, and, you know, there's so many people, you know, Beth Stelling. It's just all these good up and coming comics that, you know, should be big right now. You know what I mean? And
yeah, man.
I can't wait I want to be able to do stuff like that. That's what I want to do. I want to, you know, that was my whole goal, you know, with this TV show. I want this TV show to look and feel, you know, like the surrounding that I live in, which is right here in Studio City. How do I present that on TV? Right? How do we present that? How do I present doing a podcast and not have to be typecasted for it? Having a Korean guy host and a half white, half Filipino guy as the guest without anyone going, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
That can't be a podcast. What do you mean a Korean guy? Hosting what? You know what I mean?
Crazy, right? crazy.
Is that weird? Isn't that weird that we still live in a time where they go, hey, we need a character to play a podcast guy. Okay, cool. White guy? How about just guy? Or how about just person?
Just person. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's, I just signed that deal with Melvin Marr and over at ABC for my show, my TV show. And that's one thing I want to do is I want to make sure that, that was one thing I stressed, in the meeting. It was like, I want it to look like my surrounding, which is everyone's surrounding. If we're going to go into a hospital, we're going to see some Filipinos, we're going to see some Indians, we're going to see some Chinese people, we're going to see some Latino people, we're going to see some black people, because that's what a hospital looks like.
Just making it real, right? Like you're just trying to resemble real life.
Yeah.
Like,
and without having to put them in a group or generalize. Yeah. It's just hospital. And this is called staff. You know what I mean? So if that's what I got to do, then that's what I got to do, right? So, it was kind of cool with this movie, man. It was, the whole cast was Filipino, you know what I mean? And it was just cool to hear someone like Tia Carrere and Lou Diamond Phillips say stuff like, we've been in this business almost 50 years and we've never played a Filipino, not once.
Wow.
We've never just played ourselves. We always had to play other and take on the character of whatever was described and fall in a category that was Asian.
Yeah.
And nothing specific other than Asian, thick accent, but could sing her ass off. And I try and explain that to like these young guys. And I'm like, do you even understand what that is? Like what type of, what type of generation that woman lived in and what type of systemic racism that was?
Yeah.
I just found out what systemic racism was. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to act like I've known it my whole life. It just started coming out and I was just like, well, wait a minute. I was part of that. You know what I mean? I didn't even know about it. It was just so normal to me that I just thought, oh yeah, okay. No wonder I was playing the Thursday nights with PK at the Laugh Factory called Asian Invasion, because they wouldn't give us the weekend shows because that was considered to be the white night. So let's give you an off night, like a Thursday or a Wednesday when no one buys tickets to do anything in Hollywood, and you can have that show and go ahead and give it a theme. Why don't you call it Asian Invasion? And then over at the Comedy Store, you'll call it Fat Tuesdays, and all the black comics will come out, and we'll spell it PHAT. And we'll do Chocolate Sundays at the Laugh Factory. It'll be a black night. But at that time, it's normalized. Like I can't explain that to people. You're just like, yeah, okay, I get it. I can't do the weekends because that's a specific demo, but all right, we'll take this shitty off night and we'll make it ours. And you know what happened? Those ended up being the biggest shows of those comedy clubs. You can't even get a ticket to Chocolate Sundays. Fat Tuesdays, are you kidding me? Still record breaking. Still, I mean, check the receipts on that, man. Fat Tuesdays put more stars in Hollywood than any other night at the Comedy Store. That's a fact check. You know what I mean?
And it makes sense because people are starving to feel related and to be able to have someone on the other side to tell their story. And there wasn't anything out there. Like it's just a matter of demand and supply, really.
Yeah, but how crazy that was looked at as if that you're not even being recognized. Yeah. We're not going to get it. So you can't play the weekend. But yet we'll give you Tuesday night at the Comedy Store and you can have that night. Who the fuck wants that night? Who's going to Hollywood on a Tuesday? But yet they put out monsters. Chris Tucker, Steve Harvey, Kevin Hart, Cedric the Entertainer, Bernie Mac. I mean, Guy Torry, Joe Torry, Bill Bellamy. I mean, the list goes on. Eddie Griffin. Do I get D.L. Hughley? Or do I stop? You know what I mean?
Stars.
The biggest stars.
Some of the biggest stars. Yeah.
But yet you go down you drive down there and you look at the wall and you don't see those names written on the wall. You see other names on there. You're just like, oh, okay. Cedric the Entertainer has a star on the Walk of Fame, but his name's not written on this wall. And I'm pretty sure he put tons of asses in these seats. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why isn't his name written on this wall? I don't know. It's crazy, man. I know we keep going back to that. I don't want to
Well, this is your purpose.
I think that we're moving forward, and it's a beautiful thing. My name's finally on that wall. They just painted my name on that wall, like
as it should.
But it took someone like Guy Torrey to really, put awareness on that. Like, hey, man, like we were the biggest show in this comedy club ever. Yeah. And you can't sit there and deny it. But why isn't Cedric the Entertainer's name on this wall? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just to show you how beautiful that moment was, here's Cedric the Entertainer. He has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, but his biggest moment was his name on that wall. Because as a comic, that's the Mecca. You know what I mean? And that's where Pryor was. That's where Williams was. That's where all the, Eddie was. Like, and to a comedian, that's everything to us.
Yeah.
To be recognized. But I'm not going to lie, man. Why did it take a campaign? You know what I mean? That name should have been written on there 15 years ago.
Listen, there's still a long road ahead, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. But, yeah, you're right. You're right. And you're right. And the steps that are taken right now are beautiful. I just want people to hear that story. You got to hear it. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, just like my story, it's like, okay, you got to see all those specials, but what did it take to get those specials? Like, so we're so quick to judge and figure out the story of somebody without really researching, you know what I mean? So it's good to tell those stories. Like, yeah, I want people to drive by the Comedy Store and they see my name written up there and they see Cedric's name written up there, but what's the story? You know what I mean? Like, really appreciate the work that Cedric did and the rest of those names on that wall, what they did for the new generation to be able to walk in. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that story needs to be heard. That's all.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what the podcast is about, Yeah. Like it's if we weren't telling these stories, if we weren't putting a highlight and spotlight into these BTS stories and what it really took to get to where you are, who's going to be able to share it? And I just can't imagine all the people that you might be influencing, the next Jo Koy, the next Bobby Lee's, Cedric the Entertainers. I don't think we have an understanding of what the direct impact is because we're talking on Zoom, right? We don't see even the people there. But just like you have heard people or you were influenced by Pryor, but he probably doesn't know it. It's just so powerful, man. So I really appreciate you being able to be so vulnerable and being so genuine. And it seems like this is your purpose now. The shift that I've seen just based on your language is it's not about you anymore. It's about others. It's about putting others into the platform that you've built, that you've worked so hard the last 25, 30 years, bombing and the struggles and the tears and the blood and the sweat. This is what it comes down to, right? And it's just the beginning for you, it seems.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man. Thanks for what you're doing. I appreciate
you, man. I appreciate you. I would want to make sure that we get that out there. Mixed Plate. Yes. This is really a brief overview of the conversation that we've had. The Mixed Plate goes through all of it. I love that each chapter also is a culinary dish from the Philippines. Like, it's so well crafted and done. Obviously in his element. Anything else you want to share, Joe?
Oh yeah, I got my 4th special coming out. We tape it in March. I'm shooting it at the Great Western Forum in Los Angeles. And what else? And it is by the way, my movie with Amblin, Spielberg, Dan Lin over at Rideback. It's called Easter Sunday. That comes out Easter Sunday 2022. So get ready for that.
I love it.
Oh, and of course this tour is just amazing right now. So get on it.
You're killing it. You're killing it. Well, I can't wait for all this stuff to be done. Everyone check out Joe. Obviously, most people will have already heard about you, but appreciate you once again and couldn't be more thankful.
Thank you, man. All right. Well, see you at I want you to come backstage at the next show.
I definitely will.
All right.
I love it. All right.
Bye.
Take care.